Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly for you of a very weird knife right here. This is the Kansept Knives Branton Ehlers. Oh no, that's just the name of it. Branton Ehlers design. There's probably a full name for this knife. I just don't happen to know it at the moment. Either way, it's from Kansept, and it's kind of talented. Get it? Because talon shape? No? No? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take this guy apart. Is there a side I should do this from? Go ahead and do it from the show side. Reason for that is just that this screw looks like it might get hung up on the clip here. If I try and do it from the clip side, is that a T10? That is a T10. Is this a free spinning pivot? Is this a butterfly? What the heck is going on here? For some reason, this is not cranking in the way I sort of expect it to. What I'm sort of assuming here is that we have a free spinning pivot, although maybe it's just because it's acting weird. All right, at the very least, what I do know at this point is that I need to take out another tool. And if you're curious about this or any of the other tools I'm using, make shabazz.com/tools. So I'll go ahead and I'll take this guy out. It's another little wrench guy. And what this allows me to do, actually, is just to put a stabilizing force on this guy. Just like so. And that should allow me to, actually I'll go the other way where I stabilize it from the back side here. This is acting very bizarrely, but I think it's just thread locked to within an inch of its life and free spinning. Come on now. Almost there. Oh, and then the show side screw is the one that wants to actually come out, so I'm kind of doing this backwards. My life is going to be easier once I start doing this from the show side, because then this screw can naturally back itself out as I want to. Holy thread locker, Batman. This was intense. Like, look at the amount of thread locker in there. Wow. It's just like coating, like they just poured a bucket of it in there and hope for the best. What this does mean, very likely, though, is that, A, it's going to be a pain in the neck to separate the halves because the thread lock is going to be all up in there. But, B, once we do, the action's going to be better. Because this is the amount of thread locker that makes me think like there's probably some up where the bearings are. Whew, that was not a great move. But okay, all's well that ends well. Let's go ahead and pop this apart. Hopefully that was just a Friday night at 5 p.m. sort of knife. All right. There we go. And it has disassembled itself. All right. Always nice of it to help out. So we see full liners here in pockets milled into the CF. We see texturing on the CF here. We got a blade. We got cutouts here. Some skeletonization on the liners. All right. Aside from the thread locker, pretty unremarkable. One thing I will say is my little prediction there about this being a pain to separate the halves didn't turn out to be a case because apparently the thread lock didn't get quite deep enough in there to cause problems, which is nice. I will always, when you dodge a bullet, be grateful, right? All right. We have a temptation as humans, I think, to, especially in times where our lives are less dramatic than some, to seek out bullets to dodge, so to speak. I think there are going to be a class of people, and this is completely unrelated to this knife, but there are a class of people, I think, who want things to be boring. Whoa, this is not boring. The stop pin here is not fixed. Not fixed in place is what I mean by that. That shouldn't be a major problem, but it could end up dragging a little bit. This is the same thing that caused some trouble with the Kaiser Feist way back when, among others. Well, that one had other issues. But anyways, I think there's a... when you learn to appreciate boringness, and the fact that there's no drama going on in your life generally means that actually that's good, right? Things are going really well. And when you learn to be at peace with the lack of drama, things get a little easier, a little nicer. Anyways, I digress entirely. This guy is a dramatic knife. Not necessarily in its innards, but in its outards. That's not even a thing. But either way, it's a dramatic one. It's kind of weird looking. But I like it at some level. Look, this is one of those pieces where it's like, is this going to be my daily carry choice and recommendation? No. But is it different enough and unique enough to merit a review? Yes, yes it is. I think it's important that I continue to do those kinds of things. Not let my personal taste dictate the channel content too much. Although it's always going to be there. And even when I do something like this, someone's going to scream at me that I'm biased. And you know what? They're probably right. But that's because all humans are biased. We are all the product of our past, our perceptions. Humans are a fascinating breed. Anyways, wow, I'm super, introspective at the species level today. That's French, of course, for full of crap. All right, let's go on ahead and put this guy back together. Before I go there, though, I want to take my T10 driver here. I just want to clean off this pivot screw. See if I can't dislodge the 50 pounds of thread locker they put in there. Just because that's going to make this easier. And I'm kind of using my fingernail inside the cloth here in hopes of getting into the thread, and then I'm kind of turning the screw out of it. It's not super effective right there. So now I'm going to use this little watch spring bar tool and try and get some of that gunktion out of there. Gunction, what is your function? Originally, keeping this guy shut. All right. But it is an interesting design. It's different, right? I haven't held a knife like this in ever. I've seen some Talon-style blades before, but this is sort of unique and unusual. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Okay, I remember that the show side needed to be... The show side was where the screw was, right? Rather than the Chicago screw style head. So I'm putting this back together correctly. I'm going to use some 10-weight nano oil here to put this back into position. Put a little bit of nano oil there in the bearing path. And then pull the bearing down. Pivot's a little tight around the bearings. Construction here is, I gotta say, not quite as amazing as I'm used to from Kansept. I don't know, amazing is strong, but either way, the construction actually feels a little bit like a step down on this particular knife relative to some of the other ones I've been dealing with lately. The Accipita and the Shad were the ones that really impressed me. Okay, not the sharpest thing ever either. Have to sharpen that up. All right. The lack of fixed stop pin is a little bit weird to me. That can cause trouble, because where this can cause trouble is if it gets shifted off to one side, then it's going to drag in this channel, right? It really shouldn't. All of the forces acting on this should be, in this direction or in this direction, right? But you want to make sure that it's roughly centered as you're putting everything back together. And also, this little bit of lubrication here was for the detent ball, because that's going to be sliding. I'm going to take a little bit of the lube that I did there, and I'm just going to apply it to the inside of the pivot here, just in case. All right. That's smoother. One way that you can very easily put that post out of control is if you are trying to reassemble the knife and press things together, but without the blade in the right position, right? You need to make sure, there we go. You need to make sure that you are putting it back together with the lock bar down, basically. With the lock bar pressed in, otherwise you're going to have a bad time and it's going to compress that out. Okay, let's go ahead and put the, see now the lock bar is in place and we are resting against the stop pin. Yeah, the bearing's a little tight around there. All right, let's go on ahead and put this liner on. And again, I might need to loosen, yeah, there we go. I needed to loosen the lock bar in order to get that liner seated against the stop pin there. Now I drop on this piece of CF. It's funny, the vocabulary one picks up in this world, so to speak. forget where it was, but I was at work the other day and talking about, oh, let's just drop a piece of CF down there. It'll be talking about some kind of material with strength. And at work, he says, I was in a Zoom meeting. That's my life. And discussing an issue. And like, the CF? What the heck is CF? Like, confer with a source? No, I mean carbon fiber. Like, oh, carbon fiber, that's exotic. That's crazy. People actually can buy that stuff? I'm like, yes, actually, it's a thing. It exists. Now, do you want marble? Do you want... Yeah. Perspective. He says, whilst lacking it. Okay, right now I'm seeing that things are a little out of whack. And that's probably because, well, everything wasn't fully secured down at the pivot level. So I'm going to go ahead, pinch that tight, and now this goes in place. See, now we've got nice, smooth closure all the way throughout here. Then what I'm going to do is, well, still applying a little bit of downward force there. Put a bit of thread lock onto this guy. That is less than the 15 gallons used for the initial assembly. And then, come off it. Eat the pivot screw across the room. Get in place. Come on. Thread on there, you little bastard. Thread it. Thread. Oh, yes, thread. And we are in. Okay, good. And now I just tighten, tighten, tighten. Until things are suitably tightened. Okay, now... I think things are going to be a little wonky centering-wise, and they are. That's probably because I tightened these guys down before the pivot was in the right position. That was my bad. So I'm going to loosen these guys all three up. Now, see, centering is much better than it was, and I think the pivot might actually... Pivot's over tight. Or under tight. Yeah... What's wrong with you, pivot? Oh, it's free spinning. That's why. So it's at exactly the tightness it wants to be at. Okay. That feels a little... Give that a bit. Okay. Now the pivot's roughly in the position it needs to be in. Go back and hit these screws. Tighten this up. And now centering is, if not exact, it's pretty damn good. Oh, wow, that action's way better, too. That might still be a little over tight. I don't know. Let's try it. Let's try knocking it back a smidge. Loosen. No play. Come on. This needs a detent ball ramp pretty seriously. Tighten that just a smidge more. All right. There we go. Beautiful. We are closed. Everything is good. So, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.